So right now I'm just going to go on the Bitcoin really quick, just kind of come out of hiding. Just wanted to let the dust settle a little bit and show you what I was thinking. These trend lines have been set. I think on one of my previous videos, I haven't even looked at the Bitcoin chart and this trading view chart in a long time, and these trend lines are exactly what's happening. A lot of people are freaking out right now over something that's in a gigantic range. And I think it's unnecessary, honestly, especially if you zoom out, especially like I'm going to show right now, right um, we're on the daily, and what you're seeing is Bitcoin basically did break that 20-day moving average in the middle of the Bollinger Band, and it came down. But if you're really looking out, it was basically a falling wedge. If you were looking, at one point we thought could have possibly been a head and shoulders pattern, which would have been bearish, and that's possibly why this shakeout it took place, because there's a lot of people that didn't understand once Bitcoin got up in this neighborhood, it broke that right shoulder, so it was not that invalidated that. So that was a falling wedge. And this is just if you're going on right now patterns and trend line analysis, but with the Bollinger Bands, as you're seeing, yeah, Bitcoin did take a drop out of it, but as you're seeing on the daily, it shot right back up from hitting the bottom of that Bollinger Band. That also retested other areas that probably needed to be retested to be considered bullish. Guys, I'm gonna consider this a bullish move. Look at the size of this wick. How could you not? And where it's headed. Now, what you're looking on the daily is how this is going to react on this 20-day moving average. Usually that'll tell you a little bit, but what I'm going to do is also show you um, what I think on the macro. So a lot of people are just playing in here, they're freaking out over every move. What I'm going to do is show you the weekly of Bitcoin, and then you kind of let me know what you think of my thesis in the comments or whatnot. But I'm going to go out to the weekly, um, and yeah, you can see how these trend lines really don't matter as much as what you're thinking. But um, dude, you're seeing a great move here, right? This rode the upper Bollinger Band all the way through, and this is on the weekly. And right now, you're just seeing it come back to retest some of the other areas. Some people, if I move this red trend line down a little bit, are calling this somewhat of a double top, and it could be, but it also this had to come back a little bit off of this upper Bollinger Band, and right now it kind of always typically retests that 20-day moving average in the middle of the Bollinger Band, and it's going to be somewhere out here. Now, what I wanted to show you with that is also where trend line analysis goes well with Bollinger Bands. So right now, if I took, just from the bottom to the high and kind of wrote it up a little bit, you could see, and that's just including here, you could see where, yeah, there's a little bit more room to go sideways, and you can see that confluence with how the middle of this Bollinger Band is acting. It's kind of just riding here, this 20-day moving average. It's kind of, it's a little bit of confluence with that diagonal trend line that we just threw down there. But the other thing that I want to throw in here, and so people can zoom out and see the bigger picture and possibly why I am still bullish on Bitcoin, is if I do one of those things. And you can see how that rides kind of almost to the upper part of that Bollinger Band, or where it's going to be in some time. Now, when you're looking at this, all of a sudden, it doesn't look as bad, right? So what we have is Bitcoin on the weekly breaking up, bouncing, and seeing as this 20-day moving average was tested as support along with this diagonal trend line, I'd say, broke up through, and as usual, always rides up to the upper Bollinger Band as far as it can go, but as you can see, there's also diagonal resistance there. But this is in a huge megaphone pattern, and which is considered bullish. Honestly, if you're looking out on the weekly, what you could say is, and I'll just paint this and give you the thesis that I'm thinking. I think this is a big move, a big retest right here, and I think that this could kind of start coming up a little bit, right? I think that it's gonna hit some spots along the way that are gonna act as resistance, but I still think it's gonna end up coming somewhere around there, and that's when this upper Bollinger Band is gonna be coming this way. Now, I think at some point this is on the macro, this is going to come back and retest at this yellow trend line, diagonal trend line at some point in the bottom of this megaphone pattern. I don't think this moves over. I think what's going to happen here is more. This is on the weekly. I think this is going to go more sideways and finally bounce off of the bottom of that bottom, which would be the bottom of the Bollinger Band, the bottom at that point in time, because this is going to rise as well, and it's going to be the bottom of that diagonal wedge, and that's what I see. It's going to react the same way it did down here. So if you look here and see how it's reacting, that would let us think that Bitcoin's going to make another move up at some point pretty soon here, right? And we're talking at this point, the move could be, up to 135,000. So that's what you're really looking at. No moon boy thesis because, I've been bearish at some point in this last move, but right now it's only a matter of time where it does one of these squigglies, comes off of the diagonal trend line. And this is just riding the 100,000 mark, right? Which is emotional resistance and support anyways, because it's a big round number. 100,000 was always the number to break, and now you can kind of see it's just like riding it, right? And at some point it's going to have to make it's in a range, but at some point it's going to have to make up its mind. And what usually happens is action reaction type deal. Object is moveless, another object acts upon it, and I think it's going to let it move up for its next move up, and that's what I'm seeing with Bitcoin. Now, this move could take a couple months, but when it does, this thing's going to superly blow. The only way I would turn bearish on this at all is if this bottom trend line broke. If and then 73,000's in the cards, but I don't think that's what's going to happen, especially with this daily wick that you're seeing. Right now, and honestly, on this weekly wick, this thing's getting ready to take off at some point here. There's a lot of momentum. The stock RSI that's reset, it is below 50, but at some point that's got to peek its head back up, and that's just saying the momentum is going to start to make its way up. Could that come lower? Yeah, but what's going to happen is if that does, that's going to make Bitcoin even more go sideways and finally hit on that diagonal trend line and go up to around $130,000. Otherwise, this is a strong candle, and if I go back down to the daily, this is also a huge wick ready for its next move, right? I'm sorry about that. That's what you're going to see right now is this is making some retests. This is holding support at the bottom of that Bollinger Band. And my guess with one of these moves, what they typically do is when this breaks, and this is going to go sideways for a little bit and start to move its way up. And that's when you're really going to see it take off to that 130,000 mark. And if I'm down on the daily now, you can kind of see that picture painted even a little bit more, right? So, I would say bullish thesis on Bitcoin, and you can obviously see why $130,000 is the target of the next move, at least, once this does break out of these trenches. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'll answer anything you got. But this just chill people out because this fake out right here with this scam wick basically is going to set up the next fuel for that rocket to take off. All right, guys, if you need anything, just let me know.